slide. We forgot to do the recording, so let me start the recording. So hey everyone, this is Sonia. She's our speaker for today. She's an award-winning coach. She's one of the colleagues, she has worked with Anna, and that's how we got to know her, or I got to know her. Today we all will get to know her much better. She's an associate director of career strategies and engagement at the Brandeis International Business School. And she's also an intercultural communication and international schools student specialist. So definitely a lot of her work, as you can see, her career favorite topics are around navigating options and making decisions, or communicating cross-culture. So all her work is around the international student and how to navigate the job market as an international student. So I'll give it to her to explain more about if I've missed anything, and then we can get started with the Q&A.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aditi. Welcome, everyone. Very nice to meet all of you here today. As you can see, most of the time, my major audience is college students, business school students. Sometimes I work with alumni as well. So I'm very happy to be here to be talking to the adults. And I know today you are interested in the topic of being a career changer. I'll just share a little bit about my story. I've been a career changer myself. I used to work in a corporate setting in China doing education consulting. So a lot of business development, marketing development, and then I transitioned into higher education as I obtained my master's degree in higher education, and then started to teach and coach. So far I've been working with hundreds of students and alumni and helping them coming from all different kind of majors and backgrounds, going into different kind of careers. So I would say I'm a process expert, but all of you are going to be, you're aspiring tech expert. So I'm happy to talk more about the process, the how, but in terms of the what, I think like Aditi and Anna would be your go-to expert to learn more about the tech industry. But we can all rely on our community here to learn more about your target industry. But I'm happy to be joining the conversation and see if you have, I already take notes of some of the questions you put in the chat, so we could later expand on it a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sonia. And if so, either you can unmute yourself and ask the questions, or I can just go from the questions. You can put the questions in the chat, and I can take those questions. So and you can raise the hand if there's someone else has asked the questions. Just use the raise hand feature to maybe ask your questions. And so I'll just take a pause if anyone has any questions they want to ask. If not, we can go by the questions in the chat. So one of the first questions. Oh, Anna, do you have a question, or
you got it. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think the very first thing we saw was how to from Shanti. Did I say the name right? Is the best ways to network to get a web developer job. So do you want to take that one, Sonia?
Could you repeat the question?
What are the best ways to network for a web developer job?
Absolutely. So before we start, I just want to kind of like frame the questions a little bit. So, we're talking to a very diverse audience. So I just want to get to know, if you are a career changer today and wanted to go into tech, could you tell us like what is your current industry, or where is your major industry in your past experience? Could you put it in the chat? So just so I get some context as I'm framing the conversation. And then we can, of course, like talk more about how to do networking.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So that we have a background of like, okay, where you're coming from and what that question is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Legal fields, right? Veterinarian, awesome.
I saw a couple before.
Project
education. There is another person, higher education with international students. So Chelsea, we see you. We see you. A lot of nonprofit people.
That's amazing.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting as I'm thinking about one of the, I don't know any of you know Brandeis near Boston. It's a prestigious university, at the same time is known for its rigorous curriculum, but also a very strong liberal art background. So the students and alumni working with are easily double majors, triple minors. So it reminds me a lot of like all those very rich, like diverse background. So all of you here are, already have a very rich experience in all these different fields. As a career changer, I think like the most difficult part of it is like recognizing that you can carry over these experience into the different field, and how to translate this language into the tech industry. At the same time, acknowledging that your positioning yourself in this new field is the hardest part. So the mindset is the hardest part. Like, how do you come down the ladder, right? Going to the ground level and started with all these new grads, like coming out of college. I think as I talk to career changer, I think this is definitely the hardest part. Like I work with an alum who's a math teacher for 10 years, and that's the only job he knows. But then one day he just felt like, I just can't do this anymore. I just feel like my whole life is about it, but I run out of juice, I run out of inspiration, and I don't feel like I'm connected to what I do. I don't know if like some of you could connect to that feeling, right? If you're here today, I think you already make your first step is you really want to make a change. So I just want to acknowledge that before we start, and frame the conversation of knowing that it is difficult, but it is possible. And we just need to kind of put in the steps and pave the way as we move forward. So I'm after the long intro, I'm going to go back to the first questions about how to do networking. I don't know what are some challenges people experience during the networking process. Like we are all working professionals, so we know networking is important. But what are some specific like challenge that you feel during the networking process? So maybe we can talk more about that. Let's see if anything. Not knowing anyone, that's a good one. Like how to ask the right questions, right? Very good. Being comfortable, yes. Yep, imposter syndrome, we all experience that. I think this is like why I love to talk to women is when I talk to men, this is definitely like a little bit less of a concern. As we're working with women, we know that we're dealing with it every day, especially when you move up into your career. The more you move up, the more you experience that feel like you're in a place that you don't belong to. How to find the right group. Okay, so let me start. It's a lot of questions. So basically the questions basically cover like who, how, what, right? What question to ask, who to reach out to, how to find those people. So I try to summarize this as quick as possible because I know we have a lot of questions today. So I think the first thing is like try to identify the right person. As you all know, like if you want the job, you want to talk to the person in that job. In your exploration process, right? Try to like leverage a network. Like a group like today is a really great platform to get to know people and identify people who are in those positions, especially if you're coming from, if you want to move to San Francisco but never been there, right? Sometimes it's really hard to know who do I talk to. But networking is all about the quality rather than the quantity. Sometimes if you know that one person who lives in San Francisco, that would be your starting point of exploring the whole region, right? So the same as tech industry, if you know one person, even they work there as a janitor, as a front desk receptionist, that would be your starting point. So take interest in their work, right? Try to get them to, go to dinner or get coffee. This is like a very, like what I like about the US culture is like, it's a stranger culture, which means that you can approach strangers in a field as long as you can immediately find that kind of common topics that you're both interested in. And another thing, don't forget, like there are always people who want to break into your industry. So sometimes the give and take, right? If you can find someone to make a buddy, right, help each other out, that will make it a win-win situation. And networking is always like that. It's always about going both ways. And then also like the asking the right questions. I think it's just like kind of what you want to know about the field, how you want to, you definitely want to do a research, right? You don't want to sit down with someone and just like ask questions like, oh, like tell me everything about the tech industry, right? You should at least like know a little bit about it. And we're living in a day of age that, most people make YouTube videos about everything on the internet. I remember when I started to coach the business analytic cohort, I know nothing about business analytics. I just binge watching YouTube channels, and then I can speak fluently about what kind of tools you need, like what kind of position it looks like. So it's very easy to acquire a lingo so that people can, quickly pick up the conversations, right? You can see that you are really trying to like break into the field. So I'll just take a pause and see if any other, I know I probably missed a lot of questions while I'm talking, but yeah, any kind of follow up from here.
Yeah, don't worry about the chat, Sonia. We are taking care of the chat.
We're looking at it.
I'm trying to do both, but it's hard.
Can I pass a question to Aditi, actually,
Sure.
that I'm seeing coming up a lot? We're seeing a lot of questions. The comments are amazing. So
yeah, there are too many comments to just keep track of.
I think, where was the part I really wanted to ask about for you, Aditi, and your experience in San Francisco? Because Jessely said how to find the right group, because there's a lot of different tech-related groups, and kind of how to find your niche when you're looking like for community or joining meetups and stuff. I thought that you'd be a great person to answer that.
Sure. I think at least for tech, if you know a particular like domain that you want to get in, say, for example, data science is a very popular field that like it's a new and upcoming field, and that's what people are usually like, if they're transitioning, they're trying to transition in that, or machine learning. So if you know that particular domain, then I would say start with the specific communities around that. If it's like language specific, like Python or front end versus back end, we have like, and Women of Code also has like a lot of tech communities. So I would definitely, so when I started my career, I started attending a lot of these Women Who Code events, because you get to learn a lot about the tech industry, not just like in particular terms of, okay, what domain is, like we try to bring, and we try to have these events around all these upcoming topics. So definitely it gives you an idea if you are unknown about, okay, is data science something that I am interested in, or is say machine learning something that I'm interested in. So just attend these kind of events to get that understanding of what you like, and how can you map that to your previous experience. Because nowadays in tech, everything is like, we are open, the tech is opening to all these like career changes because of the experience that you get, and the experience that you have is definitely useful when you come to tech. So try to find like what is something that your experience so far is mapping to what you want to do in your career in tech. So try to find that match, and just attending these events like this, try out different things if you don't know for sure what you want to go for. So just try out different things. There are boot camps. There are also like online open source communities where you can just do some hands-on exercises to know, okay, just do a quick like app or something like that to understand, is that something that you like, versus do just like work on some AWS services or something like that, and is that something that you like. So I would just say that use these like resources, free resources that we provide, and like not just women code, but like there are many other communities as well, like women tech makers, or Anita Borg, the Grace Hopper conference, like all these events. Just feel free to go to those events and learn about tech before you make a choice that, okay, I want to stick to a particular domain or a particular stack, if you're more interested in a stack. Did that help?
Yeah, I would just want to say, like, it's so amazing that the organization has put on all these great events. Don't underestimate the power of community, because you don't have to do this alone. And that's the biggest mistake I made when I was out of grad school, and I felt like I have to do everything by myself, like do all the job search and write a good resume, until 3 months later, I realized I'm not making any progress. And I was learning career advising when I was in grad school. And then once I started to talk to people, go to conference, I realized like people are experiencing the same thing that we're experiencing. A lot of those questions about the nerves, about feeling imposter syndrome, feeling uncomfortable reaching out to a stranger. I think like don't think about talking to that CEO to get that job. Think about like who's right next to you, right? In this chat, like if you identify anyone has an interesting previous career, connect with them. Like, can I have your contact information? I think that would be a really great starting point. I know a lot of events these days are virtual. Sometimes you really have to make a point of connecting with someone. I would tell, as Aditi was talking about the all these like learning opportunities, it just reminds me one of my students who went to data analytic bootcamp, and she was helping a new student who's coming in with a technical challenge. And as she was talking to her, the new person actually has been a manager herself, but she's like kind of learning data analytics for the first time. And then and then my student ended up getting an internship in her mentee's company. So, you know, sometimes like you have the expertise that you can also give as a way to take, right? So networking, the amazing thing about networking is you would never know where the conversation take you. You can always find a way to benefit both parties. So the very common thoughts that I hear people talk about when they're networking is they feel like they are a burden to other people. They feel like they're asking for a favor. They feel like they're, you know, inconvenient the other person. But the truth is, a lot of people are out there. They're also thinking about the same thing, right? They also may have questions, may have concern. But if you offer to help them, you offer to identify what's the challenge in their work, and willing to, you know, give a hand, and that's how relationships started, and that's how you keep it authentic, organic in a way. That will go a long way. So yeah, just like a little bit more about networking. I know I can talk about this all day. I just want to take a natural pause and see if there are any other topics that we could address today.
May I jump in really quickly?
Sure.
One thing, common theme, I feel this is probably going to be a question for both of our speakers and me a little bit too. A theme I'm seeing is we have a lot of people in boot camps right now. And yes, and also Chelsea's asking great questions, so I want to come back to that. But there's a lot of people in boot camps, and I feel like Sonia, you could talk a lot to this. So there's this question kind of, is boot camp enough? Will people look down on me because it's boot camp, not a degree, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I'd love to know what Aditi thinks as a working amazing engineer, but also Sonia, just kind of because we've worked with students that are worried people are going to be judging them and like things like that. And so what advice do you give if someone's like concerned that their background's going to like give a certain judgment or something like that?
Skills are skills, right? I think for employers, that's definitely their biggest priorities is whether you can actually do the job, right? So wherever you get those skills, it doesn't really matter. If you say that you're graduated from like a Harvard business analytic program, I might be like taking a pause, right? Like, will you come, right? Like, employers are very realistic and practical these days. As long as you're able to demonstrate it, I always tell my students, like, don't stress about the technical piece. If they worry about it, they would just give you a test and they would know what your skills are, give you a case, right? So I think that's a great question, but I feel like whether you get a certificate, get a boot camp experience, take some online classes, I think the way where the world of work is heading towards that direction that self-improvement and self-learning is going to be a lifelong theme. We're hiring people who come back from retirement and taking bootcamp classes. So it's going to be more normalized compared to, you say like 20 years ago, right? Like this is not so plethora and most people would go for more traditional education background. But this is a great question. I think like we're definitely looking at the skill set. And I remember there was one question at the beginning about like feeling not enough, right? You feel like you always have to learn, have to take every classes you can, learn every technical skills you can. But the job is not perfectly fitted for, like for the certificate, right? Like get really good at something and a few different skill set, as a combination soft skills and hard skills, and then really own those rather than try to learn 20 coding skills to spread yourself very thin, and then you're not good at any of those. So that's what I see among mostly my computer science and data analytics students.
Yeah, I think Sonia absolutely nailed it. It's definitely like your confidence. And it's only like one thing I want to add to that was like once you are like once you have this like basic understanding of you learn say a new language like Python and you have some basic skills and you start applying, when you get that first interview, the job or like the recruiter call, that means they have seen something potential in your resume, and then they have that they want to move ahead with you as a candidate. So be confident once you get that the first call. Don't self-doubt and just be confident that yes, you have what it takes to get that call from that recruiter. And from there on, it's most like try to explore that like the people you're talking to at the company itself, the culture. So the whole interview process is, as much as you are being interviewed, you are also interviewing the company and the teammates, the potential teammates that you're going to work with. So be confident that if there's some red flags, if there's something wrong that you see during that interview process, that should be a big red flag that when you join that company, that might be there might be some similar or other major red flags to that company. So just make sure that you are very confident while interviewing, and don't worry, it's all about learning. Like Sonia said, you can never learn everything that tech needs. It's just your attitude towards that. Yes, if I'm given enough information about a certain task, I can do it and I'm able to learn that and do my job as needed. So you don't have to know everything. That's the beauty of tech. You just your attitude should be that you should be willing to learn more whenever you're put in a certain situation. So just remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the interview tips is like there are always going to be technical questions or questions that you may not know. I think one thing that was very helpful is to prepare a concrete experience, how you learn very quickly, how you adapt very quickly. So when you ask the skills or tool that you're not familiar with, you can just demonstrate, hey, I learned Tableau in 3 months and through online courses and develop a project, and here's my website. You can take a look at it. That's so powerful. So definitely prepare something like that to prove you're quick to learn and quick to adapt.
Yeah, I think one of the questions was what are some of the pitfalls to avoid when you're starting this journey or starting the transition? Can you talk about that, Sonia?
I think it's very common for people to like jump right into it without much preparation. But the other spectrum would be trying to prepare way too much and never make the first move. So I think either spectrum is very common, because when you are new to a field, the first thing that you really need to do is reassess yourself, because you know where you're at exactly in your own industry. If you work for 5 years, 10 years, right, you are very comfortable navigating the industry you're already in. If you have a mixed experience, right, you probably go from gigs to gigs, job to job, like you know how that landscape look like. But if this is new to you, I think really take time to position yourself, knowing where you're at. Like, are you, like the most common thing for experienced career changer is usually they see themselves as like, I'm just as a college grad because I have zero experience in this field. But when you look back at your experience, there are a lot of soft skills could be carried over. I would give an example of I just talked to alum from, I wouldn't name which one, but it's a very large San Francisco tech company, start with an F. And then she was just talking about like being a product manager. Her previous experience had nothing to do with tech. Like working in arts and nonprofit, but she does a lot of management like work, right? Because when you curate an exhibitions or when you put together a project, you have to manage people, resources, and processes. And all of those things could weave into a really great story to present to your manager that you are a great project manager, because you know how to make all these things work. You can meet that line, you can be very organized, you know how to like prioritize your tasks. All of this could be translated into the new role. So the first thing you need to do is to really familiarize yourself with the industry lingo. Is what do people say in this industry? I see someone who's transitioning from education to tech. One of the things that I learned from Anna and from other people who go into ed tech is like, you have to speak the corporate language, right? In higher ed, we talk about working in different committees, right? And then when you talk about it in an interview, you could say, working in a cross-functional team. In corporate world, there's KPIs, but in higher education, there's meeting the like admission rates, right? Your yield, and then there's like student outcome, student impact. So all of those things, you need to translate them into a language that your target audience would understand. So these are kind of some of the kind of tips to how to make that pivot, but really try to take your time to do your research. People often ask me like, how do I start? Where do I start? But knowing when you are thinking about it, you're already starting the search. The search doesn't look like sending a resume to a posting. That's not the start. The start with a conversation, start with your research, start with joining a workshop like this. That's part of the search. So you should take stock of all of these things along the way. And then you would be helping yourself to understand more about what's it like inside the wall, inside the industry. So when you apply, you know exactly what words to put into your resume. You know how to communicate yourself in an interview because you can speak their lingo, and you know kind of how to navigate like the work relationship. So all of these things shows your research, your knowledge about the industry will show in this process.
That's awesome. So I think one question maybe related to this was how to build genuine relationship in tech industry throughout your career. So I think that's a very important thing. Like once you even like you land a job, how do you build those relationships?
Yeah. So I think this is kind of like the same theme, right? Because you do a lot of preparation, you meet a lot of people, you talk to a lot of people before you enter the industry, and you just continue those. Sometimes people really appreciate if you get a job, right? They feel like they have a hand in the process. Then you want to thank them, you want to connect with them. And when you have some work achievement, you want to update it with them. And that's kind of how you build that relationship into your career. So networking never stops, right? Today I'm speaking to all of you. Maybe one day I'll reach out to one of you and ask you like, hey, how's it like to be to work in the hospital system, right? So it's all about the give and take. So definitely I would say network up and network down. Anytime you get, as soon as you get the job, like sign up for a speaker gig, talk to people who want to go into the industry, because that's how you build a network, is by paying it forward. So I hope that answered the questions about genuine connection. It's really, I think one thing that it's a book that is a little bit dated. I read it like 10 years ago, talking about how women are natural salesperson. You just want to share. When you do something really well, you enjoy something, right? You went to a really great restaurant, you just naturally want to tell your friends. So women, for the large part, it's really natural networker, because you care about relationship, you care about other people. So it just kind of come through conversations.
I think one of the questions that I see here is, how do you build the application material, like resume and cover letter, like how do you build your portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, this is definitely like, could be more zoom in, right, to talk about the specific. I know Anna have something to say.
No, I'm just thinking these are great answers. I'm going, yes, yeah. That's all.
I feel like you would have a very, very good thing to offer, because I just feel like it really, it's a very individualized, right? It depends on where you're applying to. And then, being able to, like, what I just talked about, one of the tips is like to try to translate your industry lingo into the tech industry lingo. I think that's the very important part. Read a tons of job descriptions. Once you read a lot, I encourage a student who study data analytics, like, put it in an algorithm, see what comes up, right? What are the top words, top keywords? Of course, you don't want to use it just to hit the buzzword, but you want to be able to use equivalence, like what is actually something that you've done, but that will be an equivalence in this industry. So that could be a trick on the resume. And another thing is not so much of, and another tip for career changer on resume is you could always write a little bit of a summary, an executive statement at the top to introduce yourself, like summarize some of your soft skills, some of your management skills, some of your like organizational skills, some of your like people facing, right, communication based skills, because these skills could be important for the job, but it could be overlooked just because people have a hard time to understand, like, how's it like to work in, like a healthcare industry, like how's it like to work in a school system, right? They don't immediately understand. But if you can write a little bit of a summary, especially you have more than 5 years experience, usually 5 to 10 years, you have more that you can say on your resume. So it's really trying to give a little bit of a snapshot of your key skills, and then definitely move your technical skills sections up, because a lot of people don't do that. Traditional resume, you put your technical skill at the bottom of the resume and it easily get buried. But employers, recruiters, they want the most important thing first, right? They want to see, can you do SQL? Can you do Java? So that is something you want to move it up a few level. It could be after education, or it could be right after introduction, and then you can go into experience. So a lot to talk about resume. I just kind of give you a few tips to get started.
Yeah, resumes definitely need a whole event for it, how to prepare your resume and your portfolio. So thank you for
it could be another workshop for another time.
For sure. I think Anna had one last question before we start wrapping up.
I did have a question. I don't remember who asked it, but I know from when Sonia and I worked together with aspiring data analysts, data scientists, this was a huge question. It was about targeting companies. So we were talking a little bit about the chat. It's like, if you are a junior person, like you are a junior, you are new. So if you're, my personal opinion is if a company is putting you through things that are more appropriate for a senior, like that's not a place that you're going to succeed. But I also understand like there's a lot of pressure after boot camp to, you know, get that job. So it was Cassidy who said that Cassidy is torn between targeting large companies that maybe have established mentorship, established like paths that you can go on, or a smaller company where role is more flexible, but they don't have that kind of scaffolding. And I know, Sonia, in the past, you've worked with a lot of students who like are navigating the choice to go to a startup, for example, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think like that I wouldn't be an expert on, but I just, you know, kind of share the experience as an observer of many people going to different organizations. I would say like tech industry is an amazing thing that it's all about innovation. So it's not about who's bigger, but who's faster. That's what I heard from a startup CEO who also worked for major tech companies. So I think if you have a cause that you care about, I just read this article from CNBC about a Liberian turned like a digital product designer. So she basically helped a lot of family to identify housing, healthcare information, and she felt like there's a gap in technology. So she joined a wellness company to create an app that would allow people to access these information more easily. So that's a great example of like, if you had previous work experience, a cause that you care about, use that, because technology is a tool, right? So you want to use the tool to help you to achieve what makes you feel happy and successful and accomplished. So there's tech is like so many playgrounds, right, for you to accomplish that. So whether this is the big company working in a big division and contribute to a cloud computing project, or it could be as small as a startup who just started a few months ago. But of course, for the more kind of practical layer, there are definitely things to watch out for, especially for startup. You know that it's going to be less organized, right? Less funded. Everything is still in the very startup phase, right? There's lack of structure, lack of support. So you have to be a self-starter. But some people like that. Like some people like to be a pioneer, right? You want to join the next Facebook, but not the current Facebook. So, you know, it's all about kind of what fits your values and what fits your preferences for success. So definitely think about that. As a career changer, I definitely encourage people to look inward. There's a data shows that 46% of people change job because of salary. Of course, going to tech, right? A lot of things are going to be more like you're going to make a better earning, but money is not the whole. It could be part of the equation, but it shouldn't be the only reason why you're going into tech, right? So think about other reasons, like what do you care about? What really fits your lifestyle, fits your values and interests and skill set. That's how you kind of find a very holistic and satisfying career and make the change more successful.
That's a great way to end it, Sonia. I think we can, that might be the last question. Did we miss anyone's question? Please unmute and ask the question. If we have missed from the chat. These are really great questions, and thank you for all these lovely questions. Definitely, it's a lot. It's a very big decision to get into tech, and definitely Sonia has today has given us like so many good tips around how to get in, how to like navigate these concerns. So I'll just wait for a few seconds if anyone has any last minute questions that we might have missed.
Can I talk a little bit about the ageism question? I don't know if we have
Sure,
time for that.
sure.
It's a really great question because I talked to an ed tech VP and she told me that, you know, when you work in higher education, like 30-year-old as a director, you're very young. But if you go into a tech industry, she could easily be the most senior person in the whole C-suite room. So, you know, the age difference is definitely something to acknowledge, right? If you're going into tech industry, you know, the culture is going to be much more relaxed and less structured than, you know, banking. Some people coming from the legal field, that would be a great cultural shift, like everybody wear jeans and t-shirt. I know the two of you could tell me whether it's true. But, you know, just like embrace it, right? Knowing that age is not everything you know, age is something that brings you that that advantage, right? You're more mature, you know how to handle relationship. But at the same time, it keeps your, like, have a young spirit, right? You hang out with 20-year-olds and you feel like them. So I think the industry is very inclusive and we're kind of moving towards more so. So I think just like really acknowledge what you can bring to the diversity of the group. And age is part of that, is part of the identity that, you know, give you the, like, bring the different perspective and insight and experience to this industry.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. It's age is definitely shouldn't matter. So
I know. I feel like the more I talk to your group, the more I'm just like, should I go into tech industry? It just keep me thinking, just all the good stuff.
for sure.
I wish I know how to code though.
Sonia, you are in the tech industry.
I'm surrounded by all of you.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Great.
So yeah, if we don't have any last questions, I would love to thank Sonia for her time and all these lovely tips. I'm sure you all have at least got some answers out of the session today. I have linked Sonia's LinkedIn on the meetup page. So if you want to connect with her or even Anna and me, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. If you have any further questions, we have Slack channels. We have our like other social media groups where you can just join them and ask the questions anytime. You don't have to wait for an event like this. You can reach to any of us anytime you want and you have questions. So we are here to help you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Feel free to connect with me. I would love to hear back from you.
I'm just going to
Sure.
put the Slack. If anyone isn't on the Women Who Code Global Slack workplace, I put it in there because we're running right now. It's closed, but we're experimenting with all these different ways of engaging with people as we like get a little bit of Zoom burnout and how to keep that excited. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of active groups on that Slack channel as well.
And let me add to that, Slack is a very popular tool in tech industry. So if you have not used Slack, definitely I will encourage you to join Slack and get used to using Slack. It's just a office messenger kind of, but it's so much fun if you know how to use it. So definitely I would encourage everyone to join Slack and attend Anna's Slack sessions. So she's trying to do all the events via Slack, which is a very fun thing to do. So definitely that's a good way to get used to using Slack if you have not used Slack before. It's a very highly recommended tool. So yeah, I think
Thank you.
with that, we can end, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Sonia, for all your time and all your tips.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.